Recent legislation make it very likely that we're going to see a lot more commercial drone operations throughout the US. And I wanted to learn more about what that really looks like because we don't really see drones that much outside of some consumer drones or that sort of thing. So I'm connecting with this company called Aerialoop. They're a startup that's already completed over 40,000 autonomous drone flights, not in theory, but in real cities, delivering medicine, reducing congestion, and proving what's possible. They imagine a world where drones aren't just a novelty, they're part of everyday life.
My vision of the future is waking up at my home, open the window, and instead of seeing aircrafts passing by at 10,000 feet, you're seeing drones fly.
In this video, we're exploring how that vision is becoming a reality and why Detroit might be the place to see it next.
Hi everybody, my name is José. I'm one of the co-founders and also the director of operations of Aerialoop. I think everything starts with a vision. We have a group of very passionate people that loved air and planes and things that fly. I have people that have worked on Virgin Galactic and people that have worked on Adam aircraft and programmers that have been programming drones for the past 15 years. But how can we get drones into cities? That was our first vision. But as a commercial operation, I think that the thing that differentiates us, from the beginning, we thought about the Aerialoop as an airline. You know, airlines use Boeing 737s and Airbuses. We're gonna be using drones. Some people that ask me like, hey, are you flying drones? And they come and see the drone, they say like, what is this thing? This is not a drone. But drones come in all shapes and colors and flavors as you can imagine. In this case, obviously, our plane looks more like an actual plane, but it's still a drone. I think that's what the biggest difference between a commercial operation and just a recreational one. At the moment, for example, we have around 30 people working for us. Every flight that is done is recorded, is being analyzed, is being tracked by a system so that we can know what happened. One of the key parts of our success until now is that we started flying a lot from the beginning. The most part of the team at the beginning was based in Ecuador, and we got little permits every once in a while, so we were allowed to fly a little bit longer, a little bit farther, a little bit more like autonomous, up to the point that we had 5 drone landing ports in the city, and we were connecting north, south, east, west, and center of the city. We are doing 30 to 100 flights a day with our systems, and a normal airline does 10 or so in different routes. So at the moment, we have a record of about 40,000 flights that we have flown between our operations, and most of them are being done in Ecuador.
From my side, I think, the interesting thing that I'm thinking about more is some of the regulation stuff. Can you speak to that a little bit about how you see, some of the changes in the regulation side and what that might mean towards the future of companies like yours?
I think we are on the right moment. The whole industry is gonna get a shift, much more than before on manufacturing in the US, being US compliant. If you come back to the question why it has not gotten so big until now, there was this single differentiator about the beyond visual line of sight flights and flying over people and flying over urban areas. So the big push that is going to happen is that the process to get a beyond visual line of sight approval is going to be much easier. And that's when you unlock the actual potential about drones, because the potential of a drone is that it can fly autonomous, right? Then you can see all these different cases in which drones can make our lives as humans better, simpler, more safe. My vision of the future is waking up at my home, open the window, and instead of seeing aircrafts passing by at 10,000 feet, you're seeing drones fly.
So it's interesting. I mean, some people might not like that future, but what are some of the problems that people are solving with drones, actually?
I think that's a great question because there are a lot. For example, we are reducing traffic and emissions on deliveries. Imagine we have done around 500 flights until now between this rooftop and the 23rd, and we have used like $5 of electricity to do all those flights. I'm not saying this is going to replace trucks and cars, but it's going to add another layer that we can use. Then, for example, we have first responders. I think that is one of the biggest success cases until now is beforehand, the police officer or the firefighter or the military person, it has to go inside a site that is no safe. Now you can send a drone with a camera, analyze the space, get to know if there's some dangers, and then send the people to see if it's safe to go inside. Same thing about wildfires. You don't want your people walking through the wildfire before you actually get to know like what's the area, what's the safe places in which we can be, where's the wind blowing and where the fires can extend. So all of these cases are just the little tip of the iceberg in which we have been using drones until now.
Can you tell me about the capabilities of the drone? Like how much can it actually carry
This one, the one that we have right here, can carry about 10 pounds of payload. Drones have been differentiated by categories depending on weight. So we want to be on the lowest category of weight, that is a 55-pound drone in total, let's say, with everything inside. So we still have some range in that category that we can go on to higher payloads. But also, if you go to Amazon and you check the stats, 80% of their deliveries are under 4 pounds.
And of course, you have delivery vehicles and that sort of thing, but quite often, using their several thousand-pound car, especially in a congested place. I mean, it sounds like that was one of the biggest problems that you were solving specifically in Quito.
Yeah. So Quito is is a city built into mountains, right? So we're at 10,000 feet of altitude elevation over sea level. We have huge ravines and rivers and mountains. And if you want to go from one side to the city to the other, it can take you probably an hour and a half, because you have to zigzag between the roads. And the drone can fly straight, right? So it's a 7-minute flight against an hour drive. So that's also where the potential is. Also, if you go to the rural case, like outside cities, is also very helpful, because you can get to places that are difficult to contact, difficult to get into.
And you can fly a good distance with this drone, right? I mean, how far can you go with this?
So this one with the high range configuration can get us up to 50 miles. But if you're flying over forest and there's nobody down there, you can take things off of it and just add more battery capacity and fly longer.
Interesting. So let's check out the other spot, and we can kind of help explain this pilot that you're doing, a little bit more about the manufacturing and some of these different pieces of your operation.
Perfect.
All right, so tell us a little bit about this pilot, because that's actually like what initially brought you to Detroit.
This is as real as it gets. So this is kind of a real operation, how it looks when you set up something new. So the 23rd was the perfect sample. That is about 3/4 of a mile from the New Left building. And we're doing this flight, kind of imagine it as a transport, like a public transport bus. You have all these flights during the day that are already scheduled. You are flying back and forth, and whoever needs to transport anything can just use the space that is available on the drone to fly things forward and back. Also, what you see behind us is a mobile trailer. Obviously, that is not the vision long term. You will have like more permanent sites on cities and interconnection between cities. But this is a perfect example of how we can start testing on a pilot project.
You kind of teased something around this future vision of Aerialoop. I don't know how much you can speak to that, but like, what does your operations look like in the future?
Right now we have this delivery project or delivery pilot in this short route. In Colombia and Ecuador, we also have surveillance and inspection flights. We're flying very long lines of pipelines, for example, or very long lines of electric or gas lines. What we envision in the future is we're gonna combine this into a single place. And what we think is gonna happen in the future is that these are gonna be iconic places of cities. You can have retail centers or pharmacies or laboratory places to take your samples, for example, on these sites. And you can also interact with the drones flying over cities. At the moment, all the public safety departments that have drones, the downtime of their drones is around 70 to 80% of the time, because they need them for very specific case. Delivery, in the other side, that one is needed the whole day. So if you can combine those two things, you can have delivery flying all the time while the other application of that same drone is not needed. And whenever you need a flight for a public responder or a first responder, you can use the same system, go fly, get the information, get the data back, and you're using this whole system combined. You want the service or the product that the drone can give you.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's probably most challenging to operate drones in the city, but the cities do oftentimes have quite a bit to gain. I think a lot about some of the job opportunities that are coming out of this. What do you see that future and some of the opportunities in the space?
The drone industry as a whole has created a lot of new jobs that before they were not there, just because there wasn't a necessity. And now I was just reading the regulation this week. For example, now we're talking about you have to have your chief of staff, chief of operations, your chief of safety, creating all these jobs around the industry. Also to make it more professional, because we need to professionalize the industry.
Similar to the manufacturing thing, I've been talking about this a lot recently, where you can go directly from high school into manufacturing. You don't even necessarily need to go to extended college degree and that sort of thing. If you could go directly from school, have that hands-on training, and you could be learning that stuff early. You know, Jose, I really appreciate you taking the time. This has been really great. I've been really impressed by what you guys are doing, and yeah, really appreciate it, man.
No, thank you, Chris. This is amazing. I think showing the future to the people is like the way to go, and getting more people involved and more people interested We need that. We need those jobs. We need to create that community. So opening this channel and being able to tell our story is amazing for us. So thank you very much.